If this is your first video with me, I do apologize. Make sure that you click on the Justice League Unlimited playlist that I have in the description. Otherwise, you will be lost. It's confusing, to say the least. Support the comic book industry by visiting your local comic book store. My name is Doran. This is SC on Comics. We continue our coverage of Batman Superman World Finest with the annual 2025 annual in part 3 of the Gorilla Grodd Takeover. Our story starts off at the Hall of Doom in the past, where the place is in disarray, and somehow, some way, Gorilla Grodd has set up a throne, even though that's a lawn chair, a beat up lawn chair at that. And I'm like, how in the hell is that lawn chair holding up that 400 to 500 pound gorilla? Now, I want to be back in the past. I guess comic book wise, we're talking about maybe 80s, 90s. I don't think early 2000s. I think around the later 80s or 90s. Like, think Justice Friends. And it's going just as good as you'd have thought. As he goes, welcome friends to New Era. And Captain Cold says, friends my ass. He has recruited Cheetah, Black Manta, Lex Luthor, the Joker, Sinestro, Scarecrow, Captain Cold, and Bizarro. And he tells them something that they all don't want to hear, especially Lex Luthor, that they are all total failures. And this goes over as good as you thought it would go over, with everybody pretty much threatening to kill him. But he tells them, hey, I'm from the future, so I know how this works out, but I have a plan to where this doesn't have to happen. And he even tells himself this is going to be the tricky part. He uses Sinestro ring, which operates through fear, so he concentrates on the color yellow, and he activates it with force of mind, and he uses it to show them the future. He shows them the Watchtower. He shows them how all the heroes is banding together, hundreds of them. And he shows them how all the villains are defeated. They're disgraced. Some of them are dead. They appease to him, kneel before them, cowards, broken. Now, obviously, this doesn't sit well with none of them, seeing this culture shock. But Lex Luthor in particular is freaking out about this. Like, young Lex Luthor, Now, for those of you guys that are like me that read Marvel and read DC, doesn't young Lex Luthor remind you of somebody who happens to be taking over the Marvel Universe as we speak? Well, at least Earth anyway. Yeah, they are extremely similar. So now that they see the future that they're about to walk into, so now they're ready to listen to Gorilla Grodd. And they're like, all right, Big Back, how can we fix this? Well, we're going to travel to the future. We're going to blindside my Justice League. We're going to capture the Watchtower, and we will reign supreme. And it's Silverback, not Big Back. But first, we got to gather some essential things. So then we cut to Superman, who's knocking the bejesus out of Moon Man. Batman is catching him because he's pretty much knocked out by now. And Robin, this is Dick Grayson Robin, is there, and he's wearing pants. Well, I'm no comic book expert, not in the slightest. I'm pretty sure when Dick was Robin, he wasn't wearing pants. Like, I don't think Jason Todd wore the pants. I think the first person to wear the pants was Tim. I'm pretty sure it was Tim Drake. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Let me know in the comments if I am. So after wrapping up Moon Man, Batman gets a distress call from the Flash Museum, Ray Palmer the Atom from his lab, and he's also getting a distress signal from Professor Nicholas's lab. Now, all three of these locations have one thing in common. They all have time travel machines. So Dick's like, so could you call this a crime wave? I always wanted to call something a crime wave. And Batman's like, hey, we need to focus now. So Batman's like, we got 3 locations, so we need 3 Strike Force teams. Where's Diana? And Superman's like, off planet with Supergirl. And Dick's like, I could be a team leader. And so they're just talking amongst each other again. And he's like, hey, I could be a team leader. And Batman's like, no, Dick, you're coming with me. He goes, come on, man. So now we cut to the Flash Museum, where we have Lex Luthor, Captain Cold, and Bizarro. You have Bizarro running on the cosmic treadmill, and Flash has already been frozen solid by Captain Cold. And Luthor feels like that Grodd's calculations are not correct. And Grodd's like, look, dude, I'm from the future. You're not. Just follow my instructions. And Luther's like, no, because you're an ape and I'm smarter than you. And Grodd's like, swear to God, I won't put my gorilla foot right up his ass. And he's like, just collect the energy from the time machine and hurry the hell up. And Bizarro's like, good news. Flash am alone. No help am coming. And Luther goes, wait. That means, that's right, Superman comes and punches the bejesus out of Bizarro. He uses heat vision to defrost Flash. And then Flash is like, thanks for the assist. Now it's time for me to do a victory lap. So now that it seems like that's going to hell, Grodd turns to this other woman. Her name is Pythoness, who I'm like, I ain't never heard of her before. And I was feeling bad. I was like, man, dude, there are so many characters I don't know. I looked her up, and this is her first appearance. So she was written for the story. Now I don't feel so bad. So I guess she's a sorceress, and she's going to die soon. But Grodd is trying to prevent that. Now she's trying to find out how she died, and Grodd's like, that's not how this works. The simple fact that I told you you're going to die soon is more than what you need to know. So then he checks on Team 2, which is Scarecrow and the Joker. And the Joker is messing with Professor Nichols because I guess Scarecrow hit him with some fear toxin. So he thinks these two are bees, and Joker's like, buzz, 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 buzz. Because I guess Professor Nichols is definitely allergic. So Gorilla Grodd's like, did you drain out the energy? And Scarecrow's like, he made it into a time gun. Like, why don't take it with us? And Grodd's like, no, just drain out the energy. He's like, again, it's a time gun. Gorilla Grodd's getting all pissed off, like, why ain't you guys listening to me? Why ain't you losers listening to me? You lose, all right? You do what you want to do, you're going to lose. Just do what I tell you. That's going to be 10 times harder because now Batman and Robin have shown up. Batman knocks the hell out of Scarecrow. Robin kicks the hell out of the Joker. Scarecrow hits him with some fear toxin. Joker walks over and grabs a hammer, and now Robin imagines that Joker is some kind of crazy. He is crazy. He's not imagining that he's crazy, but he looks scarier than normal, and that hammer that was really small now looks huge. Batman steps in, injects himself with an antidote, and injects Dick with one too. Then he starts hammering up the Joker, as he normally does. But then Scarecrow picks up the ray gun. Time ray gun. So then we cut to Cheetah, Black Manta, and Sinestro, and they pretty much taking out the Atom. And they are actually doing what they're told, and they're actually gathering up the energy from the time machine. But then Plastic Man shows up, and he is handling all three of them. But the Black Manta's like, got an idea. Let's just turn on the machine. And that magnet should like scramble that dude up and turn him into homemade pasta. And that is exactly what starts to happen until Sinestro looks at his ring and it turns green and he goes, no sh-. As Hal Jordan shows up to Rex shop, he starts to save Plastic Man, but then Sinestro punches the bejesus out his ass with a big old yellow fist. And then we cut back to Ray Palmer's lab where the Scarecrow was trying to hit Batman with the time gun, but then Dick jumps in the way and he gets hit with it. Now, what's that mean for Robin? I have no idea. I don't know whether he got sent to the past or the future. But I guess we're going to find out. So then we cut back to the Flash Museum. Superman's still putting on Bizarro. Flash is starting to beat up Captain Cold. Luthor is still not wanting to listen to Grodd. Finally, Grodd goes over with him again and it's like, that's not my equation. That's Einstein's equation. And then Luthor finally goes, you know what? You are a clever little monkey. So Bizarro throws Superman and Luthor's like, all right, now that you're done with that, I need you to run this treadmill as fast as you can. And Bizarro's like, no, we will not, which means he will. Once he starts running, Superman and Flash slow down to the point to where they're barely moving. And Luthor's like, wow, that's a change. Like, if we really thought about it, like if you really were in that universe with Superman and the Flash, like that would be scary to think about. Like just their super speed alone just makes them OP. They can't get away with nothing because they just move at like faster than the speed of light, which light's pretty fast. Anyway, everybody did their job and everybody meets at the Hall of Doom. Grodd enacts his plan. He puts in all the time traveling energy and now he's going to take them all to the future. But before he does that, he has Pythoness cast some kind of spell once the heroes show up, because you know the hero's going to show up at the last minute. This spell prevents the heroes from remembering who the supervillains are, because obviously going in time, but also too, it pins everything on Cheetah because they're not taking Cheetah with them, which is cold as hell. I mean, man, this had to be like in the 80s and 90s, man, because they are hate on the female. The one female on the team, what do they do? Pin everything on her. Horrible. Horrible. Well, I guess Pythoness counts as two, but still, it's bad. Really bad. Anyway, now we cut to Blackgate, and Cheetah is sitting there. She ain't talking, which might have been a part of the spell. One woman gets back from a mission, and she's like, this don't make any damn sense. Like, you telling me that Cheetah organized this whole thing? Cheetah? But then they're like, yeah, well, she might have tried to organize it, but she didn't get away with it because we caught her. And one woman was like, that still don't make any sense. And then we cut to the Watchtower in present time, where we find out what happened to Dick. He got sent there. And now he's staring at Nightwing, who's also Dick. And Batman's like, what in the hell is going on here?